Hello, this is Michael Silva. In this episode, we are going to talk about the method used by independent consultants to charge clients for expenses. The independent security consultant often incurs expenses when working on a client's project. This commonly occurs when the consultant travels out of town to work on a project and incurs expenses for airfare, hotel, rental car, and other such items. Other expenses incurred on behalf of the client can include the cost of printing and binding reports, the cost of research or crime forecasting services, the cost of printing drawings, and many other items. When expenses are incurred as the result of a specific project or client, they are considered direct expenses. It is a practice within the security consulting profession to ask clients to reimburse the consultant for all direct expenses in addition to the amount that they are paying for consulting services. For this reason, direct expenses are also called reimbursable expenses. When a proposal is submitted for consulting services, the proposal should specify the cost of consulting fees using one of the billing methods described in episode 21. The proposal should then specify that the client will reimburse the consultant for expenses in addition to the amount of the consulting fees. We will talk more about proposal writing in a later episode, but for now, it is important to understand that the way expenses are handled should be clearly defined in all of your proposals and contracts. For example, a proposal might specify that a security assessment will be provided at the rate of $300 per hour for an amount not to exceed $15,000 plus reimbursable expenses. In some cases, the consultant might include a rough estimate of expenses so the client is not surprised when the bill comes. Many large companies, and particularly government agencies, have strict guidelines on reimbursing expenses to their employees, and they usually expect that any consultant that they hire will follow these same guidelines. These guidelines usually place limits on the amounts that will be reimbursed for airfare, hotel, rental cars, and meals. Some of these guidelines can be surprisingly restrictive. When working with a client that has travel guidelines, the consultant should definitely know this in advance. To obtain reimbursement of expenses, many clients require meticulous accounting of all items along with copies of receipts. A few clients may request the original receipt rather than just a copy. Most consultants charge the client only for the actual amount of expenses incurred. Some larger consulting firms may tack on an administrative fee to reimburse themselves for the costs they incur when processing these expenses. Charging for the use of a vehicle. Consultants who use their personal vehicle for project-related travel have the option of charging a mileage rate to get compensated for the expense of operating their vehicle. The standard mileage rate published by the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, is most commonly used. This rate is updated every year. As of the date of this video, the rate is 67 cents per mile. Some consultants charge their clients for every mile driven, while some only charge for mileage that exceeds a certain minimum distance, say 50 miles. Still others don't charge their clients for mileage at all. Regardless of whether or not you choose to charge your clients for mileage, you should keep track of all miles driven for business purposes. Business-related mileage that is not reimbursed by clients is considered to be an overhead expense and should be tracked in your accounting system. The IRS has different methods which vehicle-related expenses can be deducted, and the specific rules on what records must be kept in order to claim these deductions. Consult with your accounting advisor to determine which method is best for you. Tracking time and expenses. It is important that the independent security consultant keeps track of time and reimbursable expenses accurately. This makes billing the client easier and provides you with backup documentation should a client ever question an invoice. Many consultants are careless about tracking time and find themselves having to construct a time record from memory when it comes time to bill a client. Along the same lines, many consultants stuff all of their expense receipts in an envelope and then try to figure out what each receipt was for when it comes time to prepare their bills. In some cases, the consultant will find an expense receipt many months later that they forgot to bill a client for. They must either absorb the cost themselves or embarrassingly go back to the client later and ask for reimbursement. To avoid these difficulties, I recommend that the consultant keep track of time and expenses on a daily basis. Yes, I said daily, not weekly or monthly. Take the time to do this religiously as part of your daily routine. I recommend that you keep track of time and expenses even when you are doing projects for a fixed fee amount. This allows you to determine the profitability of a project after it is done and gives you the data necessary to more accurately predict costs for future projects. Time and expenses can be entered into a handwritten log, in a spreadsheet, or directly into your accounting software. There are also numerous smartphone apps that can be used to track time, expenses, and mileage. These apps can be used to scan receipts and can be linked to your credit card account to automatically record credit card transactions. Some apps also work in conjunction with the GPS in your smartphone to automatically track your mileage. Once the data has been recorded, it can be directly imported from the app into accounting software such as QuickBooks.